Okay, so basically the Nicene Council, although as good as they were, that they had a little canon there, or a code or a rule that prohibited military service, unfortunately, it led to the enforcement of the state. In other words, the mixing of the church and state, right? So Constantine comes in. Constantine becomes a Christian, quote unquote. He brings in all the bishops. Look, guys, let's have peace. Let's have love. Jesus was love, blah, blah, blah. Interesting historical fact. Constantine did not get baptized until he was basically his last breath. Why? Most probably because he was against killing if you're a Christian. I can't find, reading all the sources, I can't find any other clue why he would have waited till he died. But I think he was aware that as a Christ follower, you could not serve the state and the church. I mean, it's just contradiction. And one of the big evidence, the things that evidence to that fact is the code in the Nicene Creed itself. So what I call an imperial triumvirate of Theodosius, Emperor Gratian, and Emperor Valentinian enforced not just the sword behind the church behind the sword and so on, but the Trinity as well. A trinity of Roman emperors made the Christian Trinity, itself created by a trinity of celibate monks, the two Gregories and Basil, the state religion of the West. And it's not surprising that, so now we're looking at 380 AD, around there, 4th, 5th century. It's not surprisingly that one of those emperors that convened the Council of Chalcedon, which, you know, gave us the dreaded double nature and all this stuff in 381, appointed Gregory of Nazianzus as Bishop of Constantinople, which was the capital. So he sort of promoted this guy who gave him the Trinity, but I digress.
Let us believe the one deity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, in equal majesty and in holy Trinity. We authorize the followers of this law to assume the title of Catholic Christians. But as for the others, since in our judgment they are foolish madmen, we decree that they shall be branded with the ignominious name of heretics, and shall not presume to give their assemblies the name of churches. They will suffer in the first place the chastisement of the divine condemnation, and the second, the punishment which our authority, in accordance with the will of heaven, shall decide to inflict.
So now we can see where we're headed, right, folks? We're not headed to a good place here. Now, it's to be fair, at this point in history, they still did not kill so-called heretics or foolish people, as this guy says here. They banished, so the punishment was really banishment. So they still, but we're headed towards perilous waters here.
The union of church and state made secular punishment possible. The Theodosian legislation enthroned Catholic Christianity as the exclusive religion of the empire and punished dissent. Religious intolerance soon became a Christian principle, contrary to the scriptures. Within 15 years of 380, imperial edicts deprived all heretics and pagans of the right to worship, banned them from civil offices, and exposed them to heavy fines, confiscation of property, banishment, and in certain cases, death. By 435, there were 66 laws against Christian heretics, plus many other against pagans. The purpose of persecution was to convert the heretics and heathen, thus establishing uniformity. The first instance of capital punishment for heresy occurred in 385, when the pious Bishop Priscillian of Spain and 6 of his followers were tortured and decapitated with the approval of a synod in Trier. Never before had ecclesiastical authorities resorted to the ultimate secular power against a dissident. In Alexandria, Christians under the patriotic Cyrillus engaged in murderous attacks against Novatian,
Novation. Schismatics.
And in 415, kidnapped the foremost Platonic philosopher of her time, Hypatia.
Yep.
Stripped her in a church and tore her limb from limb. Rome did not approve of lynch law, which lacked obligatory formalities. The Theodosian Code, by contrast, had official sanction, both secular and ecclesiastical.
The state, although the Theodosian Code, like I said, didn't authorize killing as such, but you could imagine they sort of turned a blind eye. One thing to note from this quote by Levy in the book Blasphemy, these are churches, so synods, councils of bodies of so-called bishops getting together and plotting and doing this savagery, not the state yet. I would have no compassion on these witches. I would burn them all. So he continues this trend. And of course, Calvin there, do not fail to rid the country of those scoundrels who stir up the peoples to revolt against us. Such monsters should be exterminated, as I have exterminated Michael Servetus, in case you didn't know the Spanish. I guess there were many Michael Servetuses, just to make sure you know who I, authorized to kill. Now, these two quotes are indicative of so-called pagan killing by Luther of witches, pagan. So he continues his pagan killing, and Calvin killing fellow Christians.
The Christian religion has so often spread through violence, force, and coercion. Yet its advocates who have written the histories most of us learned in school portray it as having been joyfully embraced by the ancient world, a loving embrace whose only restriction was imposed by the corrupt Roman state, like a mean father with an innocent child. In truth, the Roman Church triumphed by marrying the empire in that most fateful of centuries, the fourth, i.e. Nicaea. And for the most part, people converted because they were terrorized into doing so, or forced to by ferociously repressive new laws. The new religion set itself apart from others, particularly in its jealousy and extreme intolerance of any other spiritualities.
How about this for a contrast?
The seal says, rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God.
Right. So this was the first suggestion by the so-called founding fathers in 1776 as a seal. Yeah. They were trying to come up with a seal. And the picture there, that's Pharaoh's troops on the right, and Pharaoh with the sword, I'm guessing. That's the column of fire, which is God. And on the left there, it's Moses praying.
Could Christian rulers prohibit other Christians from following what they believed to be clear scriptural teachings? The question was addressed in American pulpits at the time. Many believed that God would not bless an offensive war. Illustrative of this belief was the famous command to the Lexington Minutemen, don't fire unless fired upon.
Now, although finally the so-called founding fathers decided to rebel, there was people, certainly didn't know this, or to the extent that there were debates going on, as this quote says.
It's true that even just war is attended with evils, and so likewise is the administration of government and of justice. Is that a good reason for abolishing either of them? They are means by which greater evils are averted. To prevent the incursion or continuance of evils, we must submit to the use of those means, whether agreeable or otherwise.
Question: since when are Christians supposed to live by the dictum, the lesser of two evils?